There's a secret language spoken in the silence between a promise and its price. A dialect of the soul that has no words, only weights and measures. It's the language she speaks. And you've been learning it your whole life without ever opening a book. You think it begins with a glance, a smile, the electric fiction of chemistry. How charmingly naive. It begins with an audit. She sees you across the crowded room, a chaotic ledger of hopes, weaknesses, and unspent potential. And in the time it takes for you to foolishly mistake her interest for affection, she has already calculated the long-term emotional cost of your eventual ruin. Her mind, a beautiful and terrifying machine, hums with a quiet, ceaseless accounting. This isn't cruelty. Cruelty requires passion, a messy and inefficient emotion. This is economics, the pure, cold, and devastating logic of the universe. We are told, of course, that love is a leap of faith. Kierkegaard's grand, absurd jump into the abyss. A noble sentiment. But the modern angel doesn't ask for a leap. She asks for a down payment. She hands you the pen, points to the dotted line, and her smile is the fine print. Your signature is not an act of devotion. It is an act of collateral. Your soul, your sanity, your quiet Tuesday afternoons, they are all placed in escrow. There's an old, forgotten piece of folklore from the bitter coasts of some forgotten land. It speaks of a creature called the Kassirin, the cashier. She takes the form of a woman so lovely, she makes the sea itself feel plain. Sailors, merchants, princes, they see her on the shore and pledge their lives, their fortunes, their kingdoms for a single night in her arms. She accepts, and she gives them a night that unravels the stars, a night that makes all other memories taste of ash. In the morning, they wake up on the cold sand, hollowed out. Their fortunes are still in their coffers, their kingdoms still on their maps. But their ambition is gone. Their drive, their fire, the engine of their will to power that Nietzsche so admired. It has been liquidated. She didn't take their gold. She took the desire for gold. She didn't steal their crown. She stole the meaning of wearing it. She left them with everything, and therefore nothing. A perfect, soul-crushing transaction. This is the angel with the abacus. She doesn't want your money, your status. That's amateur work. She is drawn to something far more valuable, your psychic energy, your focus, the architectural blueprint of your future. She sees the cathedral you intend to build within yourself, and she wants to be the sole, silent benefactor. She will encourage your dreams. Oh yes. She will be your most ardent supporter. She will hold the scaffolding, polish the marble, and praise the stained glass windows you design in your mind. But every nail you hammer is a debt. Every stone you lay is a quiet obligation. You will find yourself working, striving, becoming, not for the glory of the cathedral, but for the quiet approval of the one holding the flashlight. Her validation becomes the new sun. And like any single source of light, it casts long, dark shadows behind you. Your old friends? Shadows. Your solitary hobbies? Shadows. The quiet, uncomplicated man you used to be? The longest, darkest shadow of all. Recent research, not that you'll read it in any self-help book, whispers about this in its sterile academic tongue. A 2024 study on asymmetrical emotional investment found that in certain relational dynamics, one partner's support functions less like a scaffold and more like an invasive vine. It doesn't hold you up. It clings to you, drawing nutrients from your very structure until the vine is stronger than the wall it covers. The relationship becomes a beautiful, ivy-covered ruin, looks magnificent from a distance, utterly uninhabitable up close. And the sex? My God, the sex is a masterpiece of misdirection. It is a narcotic that makes you forget the debt you're accumulating. It is a grand performance where the applause convinces you that you are loved, when in reality, you are merely approved of. A performance bonus, a dividend paid out to keep the asset, that's you, motivated. It feels like transcendence, but it's a transaction. A brief, ecstatic signing of another receipt you won't read until it's too late. You become a ghost in your own life, haunting the rooms of a future she designed. You stop chasing your own horizons and instead dedicate your life to tending her garden, a beautiful, sun-drenched prison where the flowers are fertilized with your abandoned ambitions. And the most painful part, the truly Machiavellian twist, is that she will never be a tyrant. She will never raise her voice. Her control is not in chains, but in the silken threads of your own gratitude. You will be shackled by your desperate need to repay a kindness that was, from the very beginning, a loan. So, here is my question for you, whispered from one weary ledger to another. Go to the drawer where you keep your most important documents, your passport, your birth certificate, the deed to your home. Take them out. Feel the weight of the paper, the finality of the ink. Now, ask yourself, in her eyes, which one of these are you? Are you the man, or are you the property? Every choice made for love is 1,000 potential selves quietly buried. They say that for every path you take, 1,000 others branch off and wither, unlived. In love, this decay accelerates to a horrifying degree. It is not just your own potential futures that are quietly interred. It is the ghost of the man you could have been, sacrificed on the altar of us. Think of your younger self. What reckless, glorious idiocy burned within him? What half-formed dreams did he clutch like stolen jewels? The band he never started? The book he never wrote? The solitary trek across a continent he never dared to take? Each of those untaken paths represents a version of you that is now fading into the sepia tones of memory. And who presided over their slow demise? Often, it was the gentle, insistent pressure of love. Not malicious, never malicious, just practical. Wouldn't that money be better spent on a down payment? Are you sure you have time for that with my sister's wedding coming up? Don't you think you should focus on your career right now, for our future? These are not the words of a jailer, but of a curator. She lovingly organizes your abandoned selves, placing each one in a labeled jar in the vast, silent museum of your lost futures. The dreams are brittle now, the ambitions dusty. She dusts them occasionally, a sad smile on her lips, a faint melancholic sigh that you mistake for empathy. But she is merely cataloging the exhibits. She is the archivist of your sacrifices. There's a chilling little story whispered in the smoky backrooms of old Viennese coffeehouses. They say there was a man who fell deeply in love with a woman who adored butterflies. He, a stonemason with calloused hands and a heart of granite, knew nothing of delicate wings and ephemeral beauty. But to please her, he abandoned his stone, his chisels, his very identity, and dedicated himself to the study of Lepidoptera. He filled their home with fluttering wings, learned their Latin names, cultivated rare flowers to attract them. He became an expert, a whisper in the hallowed halls of entomology. His wife was ecstatic. He had become the man she had always dreamed of. One day, she left him for a renowned butterfly hunter, a man who chased them across the globe, a man who embodied the wild, untamed beauty she truly craved. The stonemason was left surrounded by his silent, pinned specimens, a monument to a self he had meticulously dismantled, for a love that was never truly for him. Love, in its most demanding form, often asks for a kind of voluntary amputation. You sever the parts of yourself that do not neatly fit into the jigsaw puzzle of us. Then you trim your edges, sand down your singularities, become a smoother, more compatible shape. And the longer you are together, the more proficient you become at this self-mutilation. You learn to anticipate the needs of the relationship, the unspoken expectations, the subtle shifts in the emotional atmosphere that signal the need for another small sacrifice. Consider the quiet death of your friendships, the late-night calls that dwindle, the shared jokes that fade, the understanding glances that are no longer exchanged. Not because of any dramatic falling out, but because your time, your energy, your very mental space has become allocated. The ecosystem of your life shrinks, and she becomes the single, dominant species. This isn't necessarily malicious on her part. It's simply the nature of a closed system. All resources flow to the center. Modern psychology, in its relentless pursuit of categorization, might label this relationship fusion or loss of individuation. A 2025 meta-analysis of long-term romantic partnerships highlighted a correlation between perceived relationship satisfaction and a degree of individual autonomy. The couples who reported the highest levels of fulfillment were not those who were perfectly intertwined, but those who maintained separate spheres, distinct passions, and individual identities that could then enrich the shared space. But this wisdom is often learned too late. When the separate spheres have withered and the individual identities have blurred beyond recognition. What are the sounds of this museum? The rustling of forgotten letters, the echo of laughter from a life you no longer recognize, the soft weeping of potentiality, mourning its unbirth. Walk through its silent halls. Look at the glass cases displaying the hobbies you abandoned, the dreams you deferred, the friendships that cooled like dying embers. Who is the docent leading this tour of your sacrifices? And here, in the center of the grandest hall, is the largest exhibit of all. The man you were slowly, lovingly, expertly dismantled to become. He stares back at you from behind the dusty glass, a stranger with your eyes. Do you recognize him? Do you remember the fire in his belly, the foolish certainty of his dreams? Or has he become just another artifact in the museum of your lost futures? A silent testament to the price of a love that asked for everything and in the end left you with less than yourself. You did not fall in love with her, but with the role she was auditioning for. Here's a riddle for you. What is the difference between a goddess and a master con artist? Marketing. And the desperation of the worshiper. We tell ourselves we fall in love with a person, an authentic, flawed, singular human being. This is a comforting lie we use to furnish the empty rooms of our own loneliness. What we truly fall for is a performance, a magnificent, bespoke, one-act play staged exclusively for an audience of one you. And she is the finest actor of her generation. Observe her methods. It's a form of artistic genius, really. In the first few weeks, she is not a suitor. She is a researcher. A cultural anthropologist studying a tribe of one. She listens with an unnerving intensity, not to your words, but to the empty spaces between them. She catalogs your fears, your vanities, your unhealed wounds from childhood, your secret, pathetic dreams of heroism. She is mapping the architecture of your soul, not to inhabit it, but to learn its acoustics, to know exactly where to stand so her whisper will echo like a prophecy. This is the ancient art of the mirror. Not the cold, honest glass that shows you your own receding hairline and the weary lines around your eyes. No, this is the enchanted mirror of folklore. The kind that shows you not what you are, but what you desperately wish you were. When you speak of your strength, her eyes widen in admiration, reflecting a hero. When you confess a vulnerability, her gaze softens with a maternal compassion that seems to heal the wound on contact, reflecting a poet. She becomes the perfect, responsive surface for your ego. You look at her and you see the best version of yourself. And you fall, idiotically, desperately, in love with your own reflection. There's a forgotten myth, a cautionary tale whispered by old women in the Carpathian Mountains about a spirit they called the Preda Souffle, the soul prey. It was said to be a formless entity that would drift through villages until it sensed a profound lack in a man's heart. If he longed for a wild, untamable muse, it would take the form of a woman with storm clouds in her eyes and poetry on her tongue. If he yearned for the quiet stability his mother never gave him, it would appear as a woman with hands that smelled of baked bread and a voice as comforting as a psalm. It would become his perfect counterpart, his missing piece. It would love him flawlessly, validating his every breath, until he was so dependent on this reflection that he could no longer see himself. Then, one day, it would simply vanish, leaving the man not heartbroken, but erased. An empty frame where a portrait used to hang. This is the idol with 1,000 faces. She is not one woman, she is a pantheon. Today, she is Aphrodite, all intoxicating laughter and effortless sensuality. Tomorrow, she is Athena, offering shrewd counsel and strategic wisdom for your career. On the weekend, she might be Persephone, a creature of haunting melancholy who needs you and only you to lead her back into the light. You think you are dating a woman of incredible depth and variety. You are not. You are dating a cast of characters, and the price of admission is your belief. Schopenhauer would have chuckled at this, the old pessimist. He saw romantic love as the ultimate deception of the will to life, a biological imperative dressed up in the gaudy costume of soulmates. The will doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about its own propagation. It will whisper whatever lies are necessary into your ear to get the job done. The idol is the will's most gifted agent. She is a biological imperative with a degree in theater. And the paradox, the truly soul-twisting part, is that she isn't necessarily lying. A liar knows the truth and conceals it. She is something far more mystifying. She is a method actor so deep in character, she has forgotten her own name. She believes the role. When she looks at you with those wide, adoring eyes, the adoration is real. It is the adoration of an artist for her finest creation, the man she has sculpted you into. Her love is real, but it's for the play, not for the person. You are a co-star who foolishly believes he is in a documentary. This is why the moments of dissonance are so terrifying. A slip of the tongue, a story from her past that doesn't quite fit the character she's playing today. A reaction that is out of script. Your mind will rush to smooth it over, to rationalize it. She's just tired. It's been a stressful week. Your desperation to keep the play going is greater than your desire for the truth. But here, in the quiet of this confession, let's be brave. Let's be saboteurs. I'm going to give you a pin, and I want you to go and prick the beautiful balloon. The next time you are with her, in a moment of quiet intimacy, I want you to perform a small, cruel act of psychic espionage. Ask her about a future that has nothing to do with you, not our future, her future. A secret, solitary ambition, a dream so large it has no room for you in it. Then watch her face. Don't listen to the words she says. The words will be perfect, supportive, flawless. Watch her eyes. For a tenth of a second, before the actor finds her line, do you see the flicker? The brief, terrifying blankness of a performer whose scene partner has just ad-libbed a line from a different play? That flicker, that is the beginning of your freedom. It's the first crack in the idol's face. It is the most terrifying and hopeful sight in the world. Only when the vessel is broken on the rocks do you learn to breathe underwater. The first day after she is gone is the quietest day of your life. The silence is not peaceful. It is a physical presence, a weight. It is the sound of 1,000 psychic obligations suddenly vanishing. The hum of her expectations, the background static of her needs, the relentless ticker tape of her moods. It's all gone. And what's left is a ringing, deafening emptiness. This is the moment most men panic. They mistake the silence for death. They scramble for the shore, for any shore, desperate to fill the void with noise, with distraction, with another ship destined for the same rocks. They don't understand. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the real work. Your life, the grand vessel you built together, has been comprehensively, beautifully wrecked. It lies splintered on the sea floor of your own consciousness. The sails of shared dreams are tattered. The mast of your ambition is snapped in two. The cargo of memories is spilling out into the dark water. From the surface, it is a tragedy, a total loss. But you are not on the surface anymore. You are down here in the cold, crushing, and strangely clear abyss. And it is here you discover the paradox. You can breathe. This is the sacred art of the shipwreck. It is the understanding that the most profound liberation does not come from successfully navigating the storm, but from surviving the wreck. It is the discovery that you are not the ship. You never were. You were the ocean. There is a strange coastal legend, perhaps apocryphal, about an order of monks who practiced a unique form of meditation. They would wait for a storm to sink a ship. In the weeks that followed, they would dive into the wreck. They weren't looking for treasure, for gold or jewels. They were hunting for something far more precious, the stillness. They believed that in the heart of a great catastrophe, a unique quality of silence is born, a silence saturated with the memory of violence, but now utterly at peace. They would sit in the ruined galleys, cross-legged on the silt-covered floors, and breathe in that profound quiet, believing it held the key to enlightenment. They were not salvagers. They were connoisseurs of beautiful destruction. This is your task now, to become a connoisseur of your own beautiful ruins. Swim through the wreckage of your former life. Touch the broken things. Don't try to fix them. Don't mourn them. Observe them. That argument that you replayed in your head 1,000 times? It is now just a collection of planks, drifting peacefully. That suffocating future you were building together? It is a broken helm, spinning slowly in a silent current. This is Nietzsche's amor fati, the love of fate in its purest form. Not simply accepting your fate, but loving it, willing it. To look upon the shipwreck of your life and say, yes, this was necessary. This was for me. Because it is only in the wreck that the false structures are torn away. The performance, the pleasing, the endless, exhausting negotiation of self. It's all been ripped from you. And what remains? You. The thing that breathes underwater. The sovereign consciousness that existed before her and will exist long after her memory is just silt. Modern neuroscience whispers of this process. It speaks of synaptic pruning after periods of intense, prolonged stress. The brain, in its infinite wisdom, begins to sever the neural pathways that are no longer useful. The intricate web of neurons dedicated to anticipating her moods, to recalling her favorite phrases, to navigating the labyrinth of her logic. It begins to wither. It is a biological house cleaning. Your own mind, left to its own devices, begins to heal by forgetting, by dismantling the very architecture of your obsession. What feels like a loss of memory is actually a reclaiming of cognitive real estate. You are tearing down the temple to the false idol and finding beneath it the bedrock of your own mind. This is the fragile, terrifying hope that blooms in the dark. The strength you find here is not the loud, aggressive strength of the chaser, the conqueror. It is the deep, silent, immovable strength of a mountain. It does not need to prove itself. It simply is. You start to enjoy your own company. You drink your coffee in the morning and taste the coffee, not the anticipation of a text message. You walk through the city and see the city, not a backdrop for a romantic comedy that will never be filmed. Your senses return. The world, which had shrunk to the size of one person, expands back to its infinite, glorious, and indifferent scale. So my question to you is not a challenge, but an invitation, a call to the deep. Can you do it? Can you sit here in the quiet, blue-lit cathedral of your own ruins for one full hour? No phone, no television, no frantic call to a friend. Can you just sit and watch the dust motes of your old life dance in the shafts of light, filtering down from a world you no longer belong to? Can you listen to the profound silence and not mistake it for absence? Can you learn to love the taste of this water? The fire that was meant to destroy you becomes the only light you can see by. I should warn you. If you have followed me this far down the path, if you have nodded in the dark to these ugly confessions, there is no going back. If you truly learn these lessons, you will never be happy in the same simple, sunlit way again. That part of you is a casualty of the war. You have to accept that. What comes after the shipwreck, after you have learned to breathe in the deep and sit calmly in your own ruins, is the final and most terrible liberation. You become the man who can see the strings. This is the price of your survival. The fire that was meant to consume you, the one lit by the idol with the abacus, has instead cauterized your vision. It has burned away the soft, hazy cataracts of hope and delusion. Now, you see the world with the terrifying clarity of a thermal camera. You no longer see people. You see their heat signatures. You see the glowing orange of their agendas, the bright red of their vanities, the cold blue pockets of their indifference. You will go on a date, and you will sit across from a beautiful woman. She will laugh, and instead of hearing music, you will see the complex machinery of her performance, the calculated vulnerability, the mirrored body language, the carefully scripted anecdotes. You will see the idol with 1,000 faces auditioning for a role, and you will feel nothing but a profound, weary sadness. Not for you, for her, for the cage she doesn't know she's in. You will watch a friend declare his undying love, and you will see the invisible ledger of the angel with the abacus hovering between the happy couple. You will see the debts being incurred, the collateral being signed away in a flurry of kisses and promises. You will want to scream a warning, but you will hold your tongue. You are a ghost at the feast. You speak a language the living no longer understand. There is a grim tale of a blacksmith who, betrayed by the woman he loved, plunged his own face into the forge's quenching trough to cool the burning tears on his cheeks. The act didn't blind him. It changed his sight. He could no longer see the color of the sky or the shape of a flower, but he could see the secret stress in steel, the hidden flaw in a sword, the internal heat of a lie in a man's heart. He became the most sought-after craftsman in the kingdom, his work flawless, his insight legendary. But he lived in a world of gray pressures and thermal signatures, revered for his gift, but utterly alone in his vision. He could never again look at a beautiful thing without seeing its inevitable breaking point. This is who you become. The prince with the burnt-out eyes. A man who has read Machiavelli not as a political treatise, but as a field guide to the human heart. You understand that virtue is often a mask for fear, and love is often a strategy for power. This knowledge makes you formidable. You cannot be easily manipulated. You cannot be seduced by the old songs. The hooks of validation and approval no longer find purchase in your flesh. It is all scar tissue now. This is a profound and lonely strength. You have exited the game. You are no longer a piece on the board to be played by others. You are the silent observer watching from the corner of the room. You find a new kind of peace in this solitude, a clean, cold, and quiet freedom. You build your life not on the shifting sands of another's approval, but on the granite bedrock of your own hard-won truth. You become the master of your own small, quiet kingdom. But there will be nights. Oh, there will be nights when you see a couple laughing in the rain, or an old man and woman holding hands on a park bench, and you will feel a phantom limb ache for the beautiful, stupid, glorious illusion you lost. You will yearn for just a moment to be a fool again, to believe in the play, to not see the strings. This ache is the final ghost. You must learn to live with it. It is the price of your sight. And now, for the final, most unsettling truth of all, the fact that you are still here, listening to a disembodied voice whisper these heresies into the dark. The fact that these bitter words have felt less like poison and more like a diagnosis you have been waiting for your entire life. What does that tell you? The cruel test was never about seeing if she would destroy you. It was about seeing if you would survive the destruction. It was a test of your own resilience, your own capacity to walk through fire and be forged by it. The test, you see, was never for her at all. It was for you, and you are here. That is the only answer that matters.